are all Rizal. It's the only thing that I know. And what I realized in that 30 years is that I have made a number of points. And these are points which I think we have to remember all the time. Number one is that Rizal's greatest misfortune was that he became national hero of the Philippines. Where they shot him, that's why he became a hero. But the more important thing there is that because he is a hero, we don't give him the attention that he deserves because they exact it from us and we see how things go. Anyway, the next one is that because he's national hero, you have him from birth until death. So meaning you can be born in the Rizal Medical Center, and then when you die, you will be put in the Rizal Funeral Home. And this one's particularly interesting because their selling point is it's the place where people are dying to go. And not politically correct. The thing here is that when we think about it, Rizal is everywhere, but he is actually nowhere. This is the sad thing about it. We see Rizal every day, but we don't notice him. We see him on money, we see him on monuments, we see his face everywhere, but we do not notice. And all the 30 years that I've been writing, I've been trying to get people not only to see, but also to notice Rizal. So in the last 7 years, if you've been following these lectures, we've had a number of lectures doing some rather nice things. And the posters are kind of nice. And you see me actually growing older in the last 7 years. But in these, every year we start the series with a Rizal lecture. And it seems after 7 years, I was thinking maybe we're already running out of Rizal material. But if you go upstairs, you will see that we have recently launched the Rizal VR. It's a virtual reality. You put on the goggles and then you can actually watch the Rizal execution. Not the spurting blood is the most exciting part. Please go up and see it. Unfortunately, we only have 3 goggles, but please try and see it today. So what we actually see now is that Rizal wrote a lot for a nation that does not read it. And these lectures are hopefully meant so that you will not only see and notice him, but also read him. Also, we seem to know, this is what they tell us in school, but we don't know him, is that to know Rizal is to know what it is to be Filipino. This is something that we've been saying for a long time. And the most important actually is that when we think of Rizal, we always think, you know, Rizal's great, I'm not, Rizal's smart, I'm not. But as you have seen in these lectures, we have tried to make Rizal human again, because to see Rizal as a human is to recognize our own capacity for greatness. In these rather troubled times, people are depressed, it is great to see that we can also be great like him. So the big question there is, Rizal nanaman, what is it about? 30 years ago when I started Rizal, there was a person from the National Historical Commission who was in the National Archives the first time I went there and asked for the Rizal material. And I remember he actually said, you know, why are you going to do Rizal? And his exact words were, gas-gas na yan, Rizal is worn out. And because I didn't know what to ask for. I just said, give me the Rizal bundle. And this man says, you know, it's the stupidest thing to do. There's so many other subjects to do. Why are you doing Rizal? And maybe because I was insulted, I decided I'll just wait and wait for the documents. And when the documents did arrive, to my great horror, it was a very small packet. And when I opened it, on the top was written a handwritten note from James Alexander Robertson, the director of the National Library, that said, this was something around 1915. Today, I am authorizing the transfer of all the Rizal documents from the archives to the National Library, which meant there was no Rizal document in the archives at all. But there were papers in that bundle. So I opened the bundle, and what I found there, which people did not think was important, was a whole batch of letters of Rizal's sisters. They were not letters to or from Rizal, but they were letters to themselves, among themselves, and through that I was able to see what the family was like, what their family life was like. Things like, next week is Daddy's birthday. Can you please sell the brown horse and keep half the money, and half the money we will use to buy cloth for Dad. And so when you see that, how they're asking for lotto tickets, guessing which lotto ticket will win the prize, you will understand why Rizal himself also bought lotto tickets when he was in Europe. And the great irony of it all was when he was an exile in the Pitan, that is when he won second prize lotto. I actually know the number. I should have used it, but when I wrote about it, somebody just sent me an email and said, "Thank you, Dr. Ocampo. I used the number and I won the lotto." And he didn't send me anything at all. No? So I want to know how much that was. But anyway, this is what has happened. So after the archives, I went to the library, which the late Teodoro Agoncillo used to say it is national, but it is not a library. And in the vault of this library, that's where I first handled the Noli, the Fidi, and the Ultimo Adios. I thought that could have been the end of my, search for what Rizal was like. But we found other things in the vault, which is worth another lecture, but not for today. Last December, the director of the National Museum invited me to his office because somebody had donated a small book. And they said, "Can you make sure that this is the same book that you saw 20 years ago?" And it is the book that Rizal gave to Josephine Bracken on the morning of his execution. And it is a book where he dedicates to his dear and unhappy wife. It's a very emotional thing. Just imagine in probably an hour or 2 hours after he had written on the book, he was already dead. But this is a souvenir, and it is now displayed in the National Museum in their Rizal Hall. In the Lopez Museum, I've always known they had Rizal stuff, but again, because you know it's there, but you don't really look at it. So one day the Lopez Museum said, "Can you do an evaluation of our Rizal collection?" So I brought my student along. We looked at everything, and we found out that there were manuscripts there that have never been printed, have never been published at all. So it's knowing that they're there, but no one is actually looking. And the interesting part about it is that in one of the letters I saw this, and I presumed it was a lip mark. So I was wondering why Rizal kissed the piece of paper, but people said it's just a smudge. I'm imagining things. So what happened was that we found a better one, here a letter to Rizal's family. On the bottom there was another smudge. So I was looking even at the smudges. And on the back side, if you look very closely, this one is unmistakable. It is a fingerprint. So I presume it is Rizal's fingerprint. And many doctors were saying, "Where is the envelope?" And I said, "What for?" Because if he had put laway on the envelope, then we can clone him. But unfortunately, no one kept the envelope. So that's the thing about that. Fortunately, also this year, thanks to the Embassy of the Czech Republic, here represented by Ambassador Olsha, in their website, they tell you to follow Rizal's footsteps. It's a tourist thing. And they said, why don't you go and follow Rizal's footsteps in the Czech Republic? And so we did so, and we visited this little town. In all our textbooks, they call it by its German name, Leitmeritz. But they now know it as Litomerice because it is now part of the Czech Republic. So we went there in the spring and met the mayor. And I had specifically asked for something that they keep in their town hall. If you will see the back of the mayor, there's a Rizal bus there. It's all Rizal things. And he brought out the town's guest book. And in that town guest book, you will see Rizal's signature there, and Maximo Viola, who was with them, and he says they're from the Philippines. He's from Calamba. Viola is from Bulacan, and the date is 1887, so it is the 130th anniversary of their visit this year. So it was quite a treat. So we walked around town. This yellow building is the hotel, used to be the hotel where he stayed in, and we showed photograph. That's a nice thing about Europe. Many of the buildings are not torn down as we do here in Manila. So we have many heritage things, even if they're not the same, we can find things. So there's a Rizal Park, which actually overlooks the train station where Rizal arrived and where he had departed. So from here, they decided there were no documents in the town. The documents were in a place called Budweiser, which we recognize from the beer Budweiser, which I am told is not actually, the name was stolen by the Americans, but again, Budweiser comes from Budweis in the Czech Republic. So aside from beer, we had to see other things. We went to this UNESCO town called Český Krumlov, and here I was sent before going to the archive because this was where George Camel, the Jesuit scientist, first worked in a pharmacy. He died in the Philippines. He is the guy for which the camellia flower is named. And he established a pharmacy in Manila very, very early on, where he treated the sick and the poor. And he became quite famous here. And the pharmacy looks like that. So in the National Museum of the Philippines, they're going to put a big photograph of it. So it looks like this. You see all the medicines that are there, the instruments to pound and mix and measure all these medicines. And the director of the museum showed me that even the contents are still there. And one of the interesting medicines, so they all look like this, they're all labeled, but what is very interesting is this middle one, because it is sanguis draconis, powdered dragon blood. No, so it looked like a Harry Potter thing. So we opened it. It had it's actually a resin, but they called it at the time dragon blood. So when I looked at it, it was not Rizal, but it gave a connection which we didn't really know about, which shows you that aside from Rizal, there are many other Philippine connections we will find with the Czech Republic and maybe with other countries as well, if we are willing not just to see, but to notice. So eventually, I went to the archives. There were 27 boxes that I had to go through in 2 days. So we looked at all of them, and it's nice because we see pictures of Ferdinand Blumentritt. We only know Blumentritt as the name of a street in Manila. But when you see him, now we know what he looked like. So this is a picture when he was young. This is a picture when he was much older. And when you actually see it, he was actually on the cover of Solidaridad. The newspaper did not usually have pictures, but Blumentritt being who he is, the great friend of the Filipinos, they put him there. Now, in the boxes, they had one box which the librarians always bring out for visiting Filipinos. They don't care about the other 22 boxes. But the first box that they bring out contains Rizal's selfie. Was made in 1886, shortly before Rizal visited Blumentritt for the first time. They had never met, and Rizal says, I am out of pictures. So I drew myself, and I made sure that I looked like this. I didn't make myself more guapo than I usually am. And he says, when you go to the train station, just look for the guy who looks like this. So this was their introduction to themselves. The Blumentritts actually sold most of Rizal's letters to the Philippine government before the war, but they kept a number of items. This one was what they kept. So it was not included in the sale. It is still in a box in an archive in Budweis. Of course, now, because the noli, the most expensive noli sold at auction here was something like 13 million pesos, and that's a lousy beat-up copy. This one must be worth more because it's not only in pristine condition, it is actually autographed. So Rizal autographed his 3 books to Blumentritt, and it's very interesting to see from these 3 autographs from 1887, 1889 to 1891, the progression of their and deepening of their friendship. So this one, it's very simple to my friend, Professor Blumentritt, and it's very formal. Professor Blumentritt, Berlin, 1887. When he was in Paris in 1889, he now calls him my dear friend Ferdinand Blumentritt, and he says, from your brother, Rizal. So it moves from the formal to the informal, and then in the Philly, he gives a rather rousing dedication, calls Rizal one of the greatest supporters of Philippine rights. And here he says, your friend and your brother, Jose Rizal. So in the end, they considered themselves brothers. In that box also, they have a drawing made by Rizal when he was in Manila, in the Philippines in October 1887. I don't know where this is, but I'm assuming this is actually their house in Calamba. But we are not sure of that, and we cannot tell because the house that you visit today is not the real one, it is actually a replica. So I probably think this is one area of their Calamba house. The most personal letter that is there is this one. It was written on December 29, 1896, one day before Rizal was shot. And it's a letter to Blumentritt and telling him, to my dear brother, when you receive this letter, I will be dead. So please do not forget me and don't think ill of me. It's a souvenir, and you can imagine when Blumentritt received this and you read it and it says, when you get this, I am dead. It was so emotional to them that the family actually kept this. So what I realized was that 30 years since I started Rizal research, I have seen that more material continues to be found, but more continue to be lost. Aside from Rizal, I was surprised to find out that it was not only Rizal that visited Leibniz. Juan Luna and Felipe Hidalgo had also visited, and we have photographs. So this is Juan Luna, the painter, Felipe Hidalgo, the Felipe Agoncillo, the first Filipino diplomat. And this upsets me so much because how come Rizal and Blumentritt didn't have their picture taken? But these guys have not only this picture, they even have another picture. So this is Blumentritt with his family, and look at Luna there trying to be, informal. And Agoncillo here seated. It's very, very interesting. So aside from the photographs, and these are not in Budweiss, I found them somewhere else. There were little things in the papers. This was a small watercolor that Luna made and gave, and that's why we know that they were there from April of 1899 to May. They stayed more than a month in this little town. And so we see these drawings. Unfortunately, like this one was a letter of Luna, which they cut up. So I don't know where the whole letter is. And then this one was from a separate piece of paper which they cut up again and they glued together. So I don't know where the whole letters are, and so you see the profile of a Filipina. But the most amazing is this one. As a souvenir, Luna drew Ferdinand Blumentritt and dated it April of 1899. And I only realized when I looked at it again that Luna actually signed it twice, here and there. But it's very, very nice, very quick drawing. And Luna also sent a postcard to one of Blumentritt's children with this rather terrifying thing. It's death holding a woman. And it's not really terrifying because Rizal made a sculpture of it, which used to be in Blumentritt's home. So this is May of 1899. And their last day was 21 May 1899. This one is in the National Library of the Philippines. Now it is displayed in the National Museum, Luna painted a watercolor of the Philippine flag and gave it to Blumentritt as a present. So the relationship between Blumentritt is not just Rizal, it goes beyond Rizal. And you see here, this is the members of the family, Blumentritt and his wife. He had one daughter called Dolores. And because they spoke Spanish at home, they gave her a Spanish nickname, Loleng. No? So she was called Loleng. The other one was called Federico, and the other one was called Fritz. Anyway, this is Loleng when on her wedding day. What I found amazing was that in 1900, January of 1900, the Philippine government, Aguinaldo authorized that the Philippine government, as a means of saying thank you to Blumentritt, they paid for the wedding of Dolores Blumentritt. They paid for her wedding gown, they paid for the reception, we paid for the rental of the cars. So they paid for a wedding. So this is how close Blumentritt was. Now, just to show you what frustrated me. In one of the boxes, there was a list of the things that they used to own. And you can see here, there are 26 letters of Juan Luna, which cannot be found. There are 8 letters from Antonio Luna, 2 letters from Felix Hidalgo, 4 letters from Pasiano Rizal. This was a list of all the letters which unfortunately cannot be found, either in Goodvice or in Manila. So I'm still half hoping it is in some attic somewhere, and one day it will be found. It even has Vicente Soto. This is Senator Soto's grandfather who was writing to Blumentritt. Then we went to another archive in a town called Polomuch. And in this place, there was no Rizal things, but they had one of the rare Murillo Velarde maps, the small one, 1744. And it is one of the important maps. We will talk more about the maps in the October lecture. But it's important because not only is it the first complete map of the Philippines, and it is the map that shows our disputed territory with China. Remember, China keeps claiming that in our old maps we have maps that prove that the area is ours. They have not been able to show a map. So this is ours, 1734. This is 1744. So we have a map. So that China's now saying, but then at the time you were Spanish, you were not Philippine. But the thing there is, it shows part of the disputed territory, and these are reefs. And what's interesting is that in the map, the names of the reefs are given. One is called Galit, anger. The other one is Panakot, threat. And the third one is Lumbay, meaning sadness. So when you think about it, why did they give these names? Because if you are a mariner and you don't know that there are reefs there, you get shipwrecked. So the thing there is anger, threat, and sadness, which is in the Velarde map. It is also important for Philippine art history because it is one of the times where a Filipino actually signs his name on an artwork. And this is Nicolas de la Cruz Bagay, who signed in 1744. They also showed me a map, a book, 1675 book about Jesuit martyrs. And when I was there, since you're from the Philippines, we already marked out the pages we wanted to see. And so it had all sorts of decapitation. No, this one is Father del Carpio, killed in 1634. This one, Francisco de Mendoza, speared in 1642. And a third one was speared again, Vicentius Damianus, who were killed, as you can see, in the Philippine Islands. So there is a lot more. On our trip back to Prague, we went to a town called Brno, and the hotel where Rizal lived is actually still there. Doesn't look like this, but it's actually still intact and under a new owner, which has actually agreed that the Philippines put up a marker saying Rizal stayed here. And they hope that more Filipino tourists will go and stay in that. They actually wanted me to stay in the hotel. But I was too scared of those to stay, so they put me in a modern one. But I'd love to see when it's renovated. I guess it will be kind of nice. In Prague, they brought me to Strahov, which is reputedly, I think it's true, the most beautiful library in the universe. I mean, it is a historian's version of heaven. No? So you go in and you see all the nice books. So, I mean, it was nice because you go in and because they knew the director of the library, so everyone just speaks from the door, but you're allowed inside. And not only that, the director of the library brought out and says, oh, we have a map. And he showed it. It was a Murillo Velarde map. I said, this is the 1765 edition, and then he says, how do you know there's no date? I said, because you only have half the map. The other half has the date. Okay. Then he says, I'll show you another thing. So they found some other 18th century book, and we've asked the National Library of the Philippines, we don't have it either. So it's a book about how to make wills, how to leave your property to other people. And this is an 18th century book. And then we went to a museum, the Museum of Asian, African, and American Cultures, and they showed me a book by this guy named Henke, Tadeusz Henke, who went to the Philippines. He was a naturalist, and he drew the plants of the Philippines that he had collected. So in this great book, you have the drawings, but in the bodega of the museum, they have the actual plant, still preserved on pieces of paper since the 18th century. And many of these plants don't exist anymore. So they only exist in some museum bodega. So we're hoping that our national museums can cooperate so that we can print maybe just the Philippine plants and find out what plants were there 200 years ago, what plants are not there anymore. So you would see even the labels. It tells you they were found in Luzon. So he went to Bulacan, he went to Pampanga. They just collected plants and they're all still there, waiting for a young person from these people who will graduate one day and do the work that I cannot do anymore. So it's basically just showing you what exists. Before the Czech Republic sent us, the Goethe Institute in Manila sent me and Ken Esguerra of the Ayala Museum to Berlin because we're going to have an exhibit of Rizal material, which is in a bodega in Berlin. And when I read it, I was so surprised because there was a letter of Rizal that has never been printed before. And it's a letter to a certain Dr. Bastian, and he gives a list of all the things that he said. And what's interesting here is that when we looked at it, there was a lighter. It's a lighter that Rizal invented, and so he gives the instructions on how to use it. It's called a sulpakan. And they brought out the things. Rizal sent clothing, a whole barong, a whole series of women's clothes, and they're the finest ones ever made. And they're 19th century preserved because they've never been worn, so they're preserved since the 19th century. And look at the embroidery work, it's very, very fine. We cannot make that anymore. So we would understand that. Rizal sending lowland Christian Luzon fabric. But what surprised me was that he sent stuff from Mindanao. And I don't know, where did Rizal buy this? Why did he buy this? Who bought it for him? There's tinalak, there's all sorts of things, bagobo outfits. And so when you look at it, it is a doctoral dissertation waiting to be written. But I'm too old to write a doctoral dissertation, so we'll ask the young people here to hopefully do this. This is a salakot made of carabao horn and silver. The reason why I was so thrilled to touch it because in the letter Rizal says, this salakot is mine. So he sent his own salakot, and I presume the barong he sent was his own. I was too ashamed to wear it. The curators were looking at me, but I really wanted to wear it so I'll become smarter than I really am. But it did not work. So from here, we went the next day to a town called Dresden. which was destroyed during the war. But just to let you know that we often think that things were destroyed during the war. It's not true. Crescent was destroyed, but their bodega contains the stuff that Rizal sent from the Pita. And this is why there's a winged lizard, a frog, and a bug whose scientific name has Rizal on it because they were the stuff that Rizal sent them a century ago. So these are the things he sent: snakes, snails, fish, butterflies. He didn't know how to collect butterflies. So we have the letters. The people say, you don't know how to collect butterflies? Do you have wooden hands? You know, the wings are all destroyed. And Rizal's so upset. So they sent him a net so that he won't catch them with his hand. And Rizal was so upset. How come you're saying I'm butter-handed? I won't collect for you anymore. So he didn't send those. In Dresden, so when I asked where are these specimens, they said, oh, well, Dr. Ocampo, you went to this is the ethnology section. The things you're looking for are in the natural science section. But there was no time. So anyway, an excuse to return. But this is a pre-war picture of what Rizal sent. So there are you-know-whats here. He sent things from the south and he sent things from the north. And you will see that they're still there. 100 years since Rizal sent them. And this particular object, which is a beetle nut server, on the bottom you will see written